how's it going? How's it going? It is I again, your boy TJ, and welcome to M5 Property Addicts. Well, you already know that it is M5 Property Addicts, but I just thought let me just welcome you. Well, today, like any other day, I bring you conversations around real estate, and today I want to speak about that property that has sold for a whooping 7 million rand, and it is just around 700 squares. It is a small plot in an area that's called Bantry Bay. Yeah, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yeah, Bantry Bay. I'm looking at my screen here because I was just looking at this deal and I said to myself, hold on. Why would someone go out there and buy a piece of land, yeah, for 700 squares for 7 million, 7.1 million? They just literally bought a piece of land for 7.1 million in an area called Bantry Bay. For some of you who have never been to Bantry Bay before, like me, I've had to Google this place, and my wife says to me, no, we went past through there. I said, really? How? I don't remember. She says, no, when we were on holiday in Cape Town. I said, oh, okay, but I don't really collect. There is no recollection of me being there. But nonetheless, my wife is the clever one, and you always know it. Women are always right, so she is right. I've been to Bantry Bay. Okay, good. But let's talk about this thing that is called 700 squares. What is 700 squares? Let me give you an example. A lot of us, probably those that stay in a freestanding house in the townships, we are probably around about 500 squares, okay? If you're staying in the suburbs, yeah, not in a complex, but in a freestanding house, you're probably in 1,000 squares, right? I'm talking about places here that were, predominantly back in the days where just, one of those houses that are freestanding and get a bit of a swimming pool at the back, and they are not in a gated area. That's what I'm talking about here. Old suburbs, that's what I'm talking about. Then, if you're staying in a complex, most complexes are probably around about 300 to around about 500 squares, okay? And you kind of like own your own little space, and you got your own little house that is 200 squares. And you could be 200 squares, either a house or you could be a duplex or that kind of thing, right? And you could be wondering, TJ, why are we talking about, dissing my house as my little house and things like that? It's because we are talking about the property that's just sold for 7.1 million and 700 squares. I mean, you kind of need to comprehend that, guys. And the question that we should be asking ourselves today is, and that's why also I had to put on my special glasses, right? Because I needed to read nicely and understand this thing and also speak to you like as if I'm an intellectual, right? And let's talk about it. So in real estate, when you are buying real estate, I think a lot of people, they speak about location. This particular property that sold on auction recently, it ticks all the boxes of location. So in this video, what I want us to do is I want us to take the concepts of what happened here. One of my good skills that I have is to take ordinary concepts that are being done with the rich and famous out there, and I kind of like look at them backward and I'm like, hold on, how best can I do this even though if I'm not rich and famous, right? Or you don't have to be famous, actually, you just need to be rich, And rich, I'm talking here being wealthy. Wealthy, there's a big difference. You gotta have some equity in your business, in your portfolio. You gotta be solid background in the bottom there from a financial perspective. That's what we're talking about, wealth, right? So how do the wealth do this? So in 2016, a German couple, they bought a property for 290 million rand. 290 million rand. That was breaking news from then, and it's still breaking news today because there is no any other expensive house in South Africa. Yes, I think they did say in South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, or even in Cape as well. Now, let's jump on to talk about this. This property here, it is a 3-story, 7 bedrooms, 9 9 bathing rooms, 8 garages, and in the same area, location, right? In the same area, properties generally sell for around about between 40 million rand to 100 million. That's the general sales in the area, okay? But what made this property for it to sell way above that? Well, they didn't just buy it empty. They also bought with furniture and luxury stuff and paintings and all of those nice things. So they kind of like just moved in, right? So now next door to that property is the 700 square meter property that then recently sold for 7.1 million. Now let's look at what can you do with such kind of a property. It's an empty land. And the strategy here, we've been doing this strategy, but I just wanted to show it to you with a significant amount of money, what can happen. So let's assume in this area here, it's not an assumption, it's a fact. So sales in the area are dictating that price ranges is between 40 million and 100 million. So get that. That's very important when you're doing this strategy. And as and above, when you're doing that, now you've bought a piece of land for around about 700 squares. What can you do? How can you extract 40 million rand? So number one, we do know that when you're when you're buying a piece of land, there's a specific coverage that you should be able to build. So the council gives you that dictation. You can build, let's say, 50% or 100% of it, right? We're going to make an assumption that we're going to make a 50% coverage, which means that at 350 squares, we can buy a property. And me and you, maybe we stay in a 350 square. My house is 200 squares. I stay in a very small house compared to the ones that we're talking about here. 4 bedrooms, three beds, all of them en suite. Nicely comfortable for my family. Now, let's talk about the 350. That's the 50% coverage of the 700 square plot. In the area, we already know properties are already selling for 40 million, 100 million. That's the mark, right? And then we say, okay, what if we had to build in the area? How much is it going to cost us? For you and me's houses, maybe it could be at 2,000 rand, 7,000 rand a square. But in this area in Bantry Bay, for you to build a je ne sais quoi house like this one, you need to be talking about a couple of 100,000. So for that reason, I'm going to make an assumption that you will be building per square meter 100,000. Okay? So 100,000. So if you're going to be building a house at 100,000 and you're building a 350, whether this is a double story or a single story, it doesn't really matter now. We're just talking about a 350 house, right? 350 squares, it means that you're going to be spending 35 million to build a house. Now let's work it backwards. You know, in the area already sells between 40 million and 100 million. And you've just spent 35 million to build a house. At entry level, if you had to sell that house at 35 million, how much are you going to make? So entry level is 40 million. You subtract now 35 million. You got a plus or minus 5 million in profit. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the strategy of doing developments. You go and buy a piece of land and you know already in the area that properties are selling for X amount of money. Then you work in reverse in terms of your building price and the bare minimum. Now, we know that the guy that bought this property at 7 million rand, he obviously wants a 7 million rand. So in this case, he's going to get his 7 million rand plus a whooping 5 million on top of that. That is now intelligent, isn't it? Now you know why I'm wearing my glasses today. Because we need to be talking about these things. Reverse that from a 100 square meter maybe to a 5,000 square meter. Reverse that from a plot of 7 million to maybe a plot of 500,000. Okay? The formula is the same here. This is what the wealthy people do. Now, let's make some other mathematics. We know that in the area sells 40 million or 100 million. But we've also seen or tested that next door, like literally next door, it is up to 250, right? So now it depends on the je ne sais quoi you're going to put on this property now, right? Okay? Now, it's not like it has never been done before. For the fact that it's been done before, it means that it can be done again. When you're doing property evaluations, in residential one especially, Your house is the same price as those that are in the same street with you. No questions asked, right? Because that's what they do. Comparisons, they do what is called comparable sales. So your house is number 4, number 1 up to number 10, how much did they sell for? And the average is the price of your house. Simple. Mathematics. Okay? Now let's assume that the same piece of land that you're going to be buying in the 700 square, this time round, what you're going to be doing is you're going to build a 70 square meter, right? So 70 square. So you're going to double up, right? 700. 350 at the bottom, 350 on the top, right? Right? Make sense? Okay? I got stumbled there with my numbers. So 350 at the bottom, another 350 on the top. So now you got a double story or maybe a triple story or who knows, whatever it is. But the bottom line around is that you are now building a 700 square. Right. Now with that, we are now saying the same property, right? Land, piece of land. This time round, what you're going to be doing is, again, you're going to utilize your 100,000 per square meter, 100,000 per square meter. So basically means now at 700, your cost of putting up that building or that house, all of a sudden now it's 70 million. Now, but we know that in the area, we normally sell between 40 million and 100 million. So for that reason, if we were to say, okay, now we are chasing after the top end of it, this is general sales, not the je ne sais quoi ones that are on 290. Do I still make profit? The answer is 70 million that you're going to put in. Now you're going to say, okay, less the 100 million, which is the top end of selling in that area, how much you're going to get? A plus minus 30 million. Now, how long is it going to take me to build this house? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Now you need to calculate the factor of that. How long am I going to hold this property before it sells? Will I put it on auction? What's the cost of selling it? So you now start putting in the cost of selling this. This is a strategy, guys, that we utilize in the Empire Property Addicts. Some of you have already invested in it when we are talking about developments, special project X. And if you're one of those people that are saying, hey, TJ, I want to get involved in such kind of projects, we give you a flat 15% on your money. You get paid right at the end, right? So your capital plus your interest. And we take this money, we go into projects like this ones where we do developments. I'm not talking about going to develop myself, the Bantry Bay project. No, we don't develop there. But if you were to give me 10 million to invest, yeah, we would have gone there to go. But I'm just saying that on 100 million, that's the minimum that you can invest with us. Now, on a property, similar property like this one now, where we're talking about, now you got a 70 million in terms of cost of building this property. You subtract all of these other costs and now you go to market and you're chasing 100 million. What is the profit there? Now you can see the profit is looking at plus minus 30 million rand. Is this a good profit? It is. Good profit. Now you understand why this guy went to buy the piece of land, a 700 square piece of land for 7.1 million. There's money in it. This is what the wealthy do with their money. Location, location, location. In this case, their location was not just about who is next door. So that was location number 1. Location number 2 was also about the area itself, right? Location number 3 was also the scenery, Bantry Bay. Maybe let's put in a little bit of pictures to show you the views of Bantry Bay. You can see that, it's just not a house that you're building. It's the lifestyle that you're after. So location, location, location. Ladies and gentlemen, when we are doing developments, we also aim to do the same things in different areas. That's why I'm inviting you to invest with us at Empire Property Addicts. But it's not about investments that I wanted to speak to you about today. It was more around when you see deals like this, how do you identify them? That's number 1. How do you see that it's a good deal? This is the formula that I've just given you using the Bantry Bay project. It's simple, but not everyone can implement it because we don't all see these things the same. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any comments, specifically maybe about this property that sold for 7 million, I don't know, maybe you can ask the questions. That's number one. Number two, if you do have any other questions about the investments, in the description, there is a link. And in that link, you can fill in your details and we will come back to you. Give you a call. One of my relationship managers will give you a call and then you can invest with us. My name is TJ. And it's been great hanging out with you, talking about the 700 square meter that costed 7.1 million right here in South Africa. I will check you out on the next video.